So today we're going to have a look at our personal protective equipment, in this case the treeMOTION Pro. We're going to make sure this harness is fit for work. I like to start off with my harness checks with the buckles. So if I've got buckles, I'll make sure they clip together, nice firm click, and then I'm going to check the cams one at a time to make sure they're holding me securely into the harness. It's possible if you're working in dirty, sappy environments for these little cams to get stuck. So if they're stuck in the open position, just make sure they move freely, and if they don't, clean them, wash them and lubricate them so that they move. Once you're happy with the waist belt, check the same on the leg loops. So find where your leg loop clips together, push them together, make sure there's a nice audible click, and do the same checks by pushing the buckles one at a time on each side, just making sure they're held securely. Don't forget to do both legs. If you have a treeMOTION Essential, then you haven't got any clips, but you have got a buckle. So just make sure the webbing moves freely in the buckle and there are no signs of excessive wear onto the webbing. So back to the Pro. Once I've checked my buckles, I'm onto the webbing, so I like to check the webbing is good order. So look closely at where the webbing moves through the buckle itself, where it gets bent back over. There can often be signs of wear in there. It doesn't get looked off very often, so push it through on an inspection and just make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to follow the webbing around the back of the harness. So I turn the harness over and I look at where the webbing crosses the back of the hatex. This forms the structure of the harness, so again I want to make sure that there's no been accidental cuts or snags or fraying of the webbing as I go all the way around the harness. Once I've finished with the waist belt, I'm going to do the same checks on my leg loops. So check that the webbing is in good order all the way around the leg loop. There's no fraying, no cuts. This leg loop is where your chainsaw hangs down, so just be careful the chainsaw hasn't accidentally caught in any of the webbing, to make sure they're in good order. Once I've checked the leg loops, I'm going to look closely at the hip to leg connection. So it comes from the top of the harness through this hardware, the lower front D, and then back to where you adjust it. This particular area here takes a lot of work when the climber's moving around, changing position, going up and down the tree. This little area here where it goes through the hardware is a sign of excessive wear. So what you're looking for is the webbing starts to roll up on the underside. That's normal, and then over time it will start to fatigue and it will start to fray. So if you see excessive fraying in this area, you need to replace that hip leg connector. As a guide, it's about 10%. So if you see 10% in there as approximation, then replace it. It's easily done on these harnesses here because of the openable ring. We can open the ring, we can feed that back over, follow it back through to the adjuster, and just remember to rivet the end back over so it can't accidentally work free while the climber's moving around the tree. So once we've checked all the webbing around, we will then look at the rope bridge, and we make sure first of all it's tied correctly. So we've got a fisherman's in there with a cross on one side, two flat loops on the other. This bit of red tape, remember, is put in by the manufacturer. It's quality control to make sure it's been tied correctly when it left the factory. If you need to adjust it and remove this red tape, do it carefully so you don't snag your rope bridge, but you can adjust the length of that bridge to your own personal preference. What you're looking for on the rest of the rope is any signs of cutting, any fraying, any flattening, any areas of misshape and rope. If there's any doubt at all of the integrity of the rope, then replace it. Make sure that you replace it with the right parts. So it needs to be a part from Teufelberger. It needs to be a rope bridge made from Teufelberger. These ends are sewn together to make sure that the rope doesn't move apart inside, and there's quite a bit of technology going on in here, more so than a normal piece of climbing rope. So you must replace it with the right component. Once you've checked your rope bridge all the way through and you're happy with that, then we're into the hardware. So we've got these front Ds that we connect into. We've also got rings, anything else that you've put onto the harness. We've got the upper Ds that you can connect into for work positioning on the belt. Just make sure that, again, there are no marks, no cuts in here. So these can often get knocked around. They may get knocked accidentally against a sharp object like a chainsaw or a handsaw. If there are any cuts or marks in here that are sharp, they can affect the textiles. So you need to polish them out. Once it's polished, just make sure there's no excessive strength loss. Again, about 10% is a good guide. If you any more than that, then that ring should be replaced. Lastly, because you have an unopenable ring here that you can open to replace components, if you have opened it, remember that it is set back up to the manufacturer's torque. That setting can be found in the handbook. It's 2.5 kilonewtons, so you need to get a torque wrench to be able to set those to the correct amount. Don't over tension them, and obviously don't under tension them. Remember to check the data sheet on the back of the harness. So we've got a label inside that will tell you the age of the harness, how long it's been in service. These harnesses could be in service a maximum of up to 10 years. So just make sure that you know how long you've been working with your harness and replace it. So those checks should be done on a regular basis. Yeah, every time you climb ideally, but a thorough check at least every 6 months of work, maybe by an independent person, to make sure that everything is secure. If you're in doubt of any of the components' integrity, always check with the manufacturer or the dealer who supplied the harness, and remember you can replace the parts if they are worn.